Many times in our lives, we have words that we use interchangeably. A couple of those words would be joy and happiness. Now, without getting into an argument about semantics, I would think that there is a distinct difference between joy and happiness. On its happiness side, let me see if I can explain it well. Okay, Keisha, would you put that name on the board, please? This last week, in the evenings, I've been involved with the NAIA tournament in Sioux City. And out of the 24 teams, there were 13 countries represented. This is the name of one of the players. We did not introduce the players until the semifinals. Guess whose team made the semifinals? Guess whose team won the semifinals and went to the finals? Irini, first name probably, you can do that. Ziastratiato. It's Greek. Don't ask me to do it again. I practiced it 100 times off mic, and when I got on mic, blew it. First time I introduced her, first name, perfect. Last name, Second time I introduced her, Beth, the first name, and nailed it on the last name. The sports information director came and said, now you got to put the two together. And I said, well, if I put the two together, I might get the wrong one on both sides. There was one part last night during the championship match I did. And I was surprised that the young lady did not turn around and look at me and applaud. She has had her name butchered in so many different ways this year. Now, I would have to say that Irini would be happy that somebody got her name right. Not joyful, happy. But what I would think that would bring joy to her would be the fact that her team won the national championship. And it would be long-standing. Happy is something that is now. Joy is something that will last for a long time. There's a difference. I'm happy about things that have happened this year in our church. Now, whether or not that's going to be long-standing or not, I can hope and I can pray that they will be long-standing and my happiness will turn to joy. Joy has been defined as success in finding something that would cause great happiness. Success in finding something that would cause great happiness. Matthew chapter 2. After visiting with the king, the wise men left to find Jesus and Mary and Joseph. And when they saw the star, you notice what the text says. They were not filled with happiness. They were filled with joy. This was something that was going to be long-standing, not only in their life, but in the life of the world. This is joy. This is something that will go possibly forever. Now, you have to understand something. These guys were astronomers. They studied stars. What's the big deal about seeing a star? They study them. They knew. They could probably close their eyes and talk about the constellations, and point them out, everything else. Why did this star bring joy to these three individuals? It was special. It was not one of those nights where, like we can do, walk out on the patio and look up and go, man, We got some great stars in this neighborhood. We do. We have some beautiful stars, and you can see them. You go to a big city, you can't see the stars. Because you got all the other lights all over the place. But you walk outside in this area and you see the stars. Man, it's beautiful. The wise men could do that. And they knew the stars. And they understood them. And their meanings and their names and everything else. But this star brought them great joy. I have to think that the Star of Bethlehem was probably the first GPS that was ever recorded. They knew exactly where they were going, and they were going there filled with joy. Now, the other text talks about joy in a different way. After receiving the good news about the baby, Mary decided she was going to go visit her aunt, Elizabeth. Elizabeth was also expecting a child, but obviously there were a lot of differences. Elizabeth had been barren for many, many years, and she was now pregnant. Mary was a virgin that was pregnant. Big difference. Elizabeth being the elder, the respect being shown, and so forth. Mary knew Elizabeth was pregnant, but Elizabeth had no clue that Mary was until Mary showed up. The joy in verse 41 at the sound of Mary's greeting. Elizabeth's child jumped with joy inside of her womb. Now, I don't know about you. Guys, we have no clue on this one. But many women do. The whole idea of the baby moving inside of you has got to be a remarkable experience. I know what it's like to watch it. I could actually, when Mimi was pregnant with Aaron, I could actually see the baby move. But that was watching it. That wasn't experiencing it from the inside. Elizabeth's baby leaped for joy in his mother's womb. Now, when I think of leap for joy, the thing that I think about is doing backflips. God bless Elizabeth if that's what happened. I mean, just somersaults. Like a dismount off of a parallel or off of a balance beam. That's what I think of when I think of leap for joy. But there was something that baby understood. Of course, her baby was named John, and who we know as John the Baptist. That baby knew, just by the very presence, that they were in the presence of something that would bring great joy to the world. Joy is listed in the Bible over 300 times. I kind of figured, if something's in there 2 or 3 times, I better pay attention. But over 300 times. And some others deal with the birth of a child as well. In Genesis chapter 30, Leah says, "What joy is now mine when her son was born. Now other women will celebrate with me." That's joy. That is joy. You remember Joseph, the coat of many colors, sold into slavery, yada yada? Joseph experienced joy when he embraced his little brother Benjamin. Didn't know Benjamin when he got kicked out of the house, or kidnapped out of the house, or however you want to say it. But when Joseph met Benjamin, Scripture tells us that Joseph wept with joy. And Benjamin did the same. This is not just happiness. This is something that goes deeper into the very being of a person. In response to the event, 1 Samuel chapter 4, when the Israelites saw the ark of the covenant of the Lord coming into the camp, what did they do? They shouted with joy to the point where the earth began to shake. Earthquake time. They were so filled with joy that the ground moved underneath them. Job chapter 29 kind of deals with what we've been looking at with the different emotions. I helped those without hope and they blessed me. I caused the widow's heart to sing for joy. That's pretty amazing. That goes deeper than just a feeling on the outside. That goes deep within your very soul. Psalm 34, those who look to him for help will be radiant with joy. Are you radiant this morning? Radiant with joy. No shadow of shame will darken their faces. The story of David and Bathsheba, you know it? Psalm 51. David was crying out to God because he knew that he had disobeyed God in so many different ways and disappointed God in so many ways. And David said, restore to me the joy of my salvation. Salvation is something that goes long term, so it's not just a little happiness, but it's a joy of salvation. And then the other response when it comes to understanding why David would ask for that. In Isaiah chapter 12, with joy you will drink deeply from the fountain of salvation. David understood that. He understood that there was something missing in his life and he needed to recapture the joy. But as for me, I will sing of your power. The psalmist says, each morning we'll sing with joy about your unfailing love. And then the angel, when the angel first came to Elizabeth, you will have great joy and gladness, and many will rejoice at your child's birth. That's the way the angel announced it to Elizabeth. And then, of course, the passage that was read earlier, the angels to the shepherds. Do not be afraid. I bring you good news which will bring great joy to all people. Now, we're in a situation where we're looking at all the different emotions. And I know that some of you last week were just like, why would anybody be so sad and so gloomy at this time of year? It's a happy time. And some people are so down because of the events of this year that they're going to say, man, I don't even want to talk to you about joy. I'm not there. I don't want to talk to you about it. But God meets us in our time no matter what emotion we are going through. People have experienced some great things this past year. I'm sitting looking at one of them. Joan has him? Her. Thank you. Malbert's just got a new baby this week. I'm just oohing and I'm cooing, I guess. That's the baby, but I feel it too. But you know, there's happiness all over the place. People have gotten married. People have had a baby, or some have had grandchildren born. Some have a new job. Some have a job when they didn't have one. Some are excited because they've made a first-time profession of faith. Some will be like David, had joy, knew it was there, but there was something about what he was experiencing with all that was going on around him and with his complete disobedience to God. You notice he didn't say, God, give me your joy. He said, restore it. It's there. kind of stir it up, bring it to my attention. Once again, God, I want to sense that joy that I know is already there with my salvation. Whether we're living it or whether we feel that joy beginning to slip from us, we go through times where we just need to sense it. I hope that this holiday season fills you with happiness. But more than that, I pray that it will fill us with God's joy. Let's pray. Gracious God, we thank you